Well, welcome to our first bi-weekly development checkpoint. I am really excited. I have spent the last few days just kind of going back around and meeting with everybody and kind of checking in, and we've made huge progress, and I hope that everyone feels that. I'll share my screen here and just go through. Okay, all right. So here was just a little update on our progress. And this is purely subjective. There's nothing mathematically calculated here. But just to kind of show, 2 weeks ago when I put together this slide, I tried to take a stab at the blue is kind of progress, things that we've been working on. And so as you can see, Noted, Paymo both made significant progress. We've actually started some work on the dev tools and processes that would go into the dev portal. Mainframe OS has made some progress. SDK Force has a name and has made progress. And then Erebos has made some good progress. And then on the right side, the blue is things that are being worked on. So we've continued work on a couple and then added work on a couple other things. And I have, kind of added a few specifics and check marks and whatever. Anyway, this isn't super significant, but it just kind of gives an overall sense of progress being made. Okay, I want to go through each group and give a chance for demos, but I'll kind of start. And I didn't really, I didn't go through the agenda or the order with anyone, so if you're not quite ready, we can switch it around. But starting with Erebos, major release a week or so ago that includes swarm feeds, hex value encoding, some utilities, enhancements, the CLI commands. Paul, do you want to say something about this?
Yeah, I mean, not much more than what you described, actually. So that's the main points, right? So yeah, having the support for feeds, so we can start using them to experiment some of the first contact stuff. That's pretty much, yeah, what we needed with that. And
cool.
Some additional, yeah, side effects, but not side features, but not super relevant for what we need right now.
Good, yeah, and along with this, he published a technical blog post, which Pete was very excited about. So we can keep in mind through all of the work that we're doing, if the fancy strikes you to write a blog post about it that includes code samples, please feel free to jump in. Okay, moving along, Morpheus UI. Diogo's been making good progress on that. I put a little question mark because yesterday when I talked to him, he was aiming to have it published NPM. I don't totally know if that happened, but Diogo, do you want to talk about some of these things?
Yeah, sorry, I'm a little allergic today.
Oh no.
But it's okay. My voice is just weird. But yeah, so Morpheus UI, we decided to build the first release that is going to be out today, soon, and version 0.0.1. But the idea is to have the basic structure of Morpheus UI. So we're gonna have 3 different packages on it. First one is the core components, and one for icons. So we're gonna have a collection of icons. And the third one is the forms library, which basically has a context for using forms components and gives some utility out of the box, so you can basically get the values from a form, validate feuds, and all the stuff that it's really useful when you're building an application. So we have all these three packages being released today. The forms and the icons are, so the icons are going to grow as we build the new components, and the core is also going to grow along while we build our dApps and the OS. But today we're gonna release with a set of components, which are going to be the grid components with row and column. We're gonna have the forms components and text field, button, and some typography components. So these are going to be the first ones going to being released today. And they also have some customization field theme. You can change colors, you can change the theme for the whole thing. Yeah, I think this is it.
Diogo, do you want, I'll stop sharing and you can show just a couple of those core components.
Sure. Let me just open a new screen here and I'm gonna start sharing. Okay. So yeah, so we have the text field, which has some animation. Can you see the full screen? It's kind of weird the way it's showing here.
It's big enough.
But can you see the full thing? Because
yes.
it's okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we have like the text field. So if it's a required field, it shows an error. Let's say if this is an email, so you need to put a valid email, otherwise it's going to tell you that it's not valid. Password, multi-line fields, and when you submit, you get from forms library, as I was saying, you get all the fields values, and if the form is valid or not. You get the error messages if there are any. So for example, if I remove and submit, the next object has like an error message on name. Name is required, which is the same showing here. And also it says that the form is not valid. So if you want to send it to somewhere or save it somewhere and save the data somewhere, you can just check if it's valid or not on submit when you submit the form. So this is, I'm just showing the form and also the text field component here. And we have the button component that can be very customized. It's very customizable. So for example, if I change background color to yellow, save it, it's going to be yellow. And background hover color to red. So yeah, and you can say that it's no borders or something like that. So it's highly customizable. We can use just one component for most of the buttons we need, only icons, only text. I'm still documenting it a little bit. I'm gonna put some examples here, but and I should release today.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think like and also just to mention that we have like a row and column component. So let's say I want to put a row, it's like splitting the screen into sizes. I'm just saying that it's splitting into one size, but let's say I want to split into like 2, and then each column is going to be the same size, for example.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we have 2 rows here actually. Let me just put them all together. So I have 1 row of size 2 and 2 columns. So it means there will be 1 button beside each other. Split this size here in 2 and put put them beside each other. So yeah, it's pretty much what we have in most of the grid layouts.
That looks great. Thanks, Diogo. Anything else you wanted to share?
I think, like, in general, this is it. We're gonna have the NPM packages soon, so we're gonna be able to use them, install them in our dApps, and hopefully the mainframe OS by today.
Cool. That's really great. Thank you. Okay, why don't you stop sharing?
Okay.
And then I'll go back to my slides and then we'll see who's up next. I don't remember. Okay, so next we can talk about Mainframe OS. This is Adam, Paul, Clement have been working on various aspects. Adam, you want to talk about progress? Go through some of these bullets and then you can demo, and then we'll have Clement go through the UI designs. So
yeah. So regarding onboarding, I just mainly updated the flow to work with a single vault rather than multiple vaults like we had before, and also it began implementing some of Clement's designs. None of the Morpheus UI components yet, but just sort of like the general layout and the backgrounds. And then, yeah, most of my focus has been on contacts, like the data structures there in the vault and the daemon, and the client being able to access the data. It's just sort of quite raw objects right now, waiting for like the feeds implementation to be able to start sort of fetching contact data and tying that together. And then, yeah, I don't know if Paul wants to say anything about the GraphQL and relay integrations.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly about setting it up so that we can make internal changes in the daemon, mostly related to refactoring around feeds and these kind of changes that are required, without impacting too much how things would look like for the APIs themselves. So that Diogo can continue to work on implementing the UIs in the launcher, using the GraphQL APIs and not having breaking every time we change some internal data structures.
cool. Okay, Adam, do you want to? Okay, I'll stop sharing and you can share, and then we'll have Clement.
Yeah, I mean, do you want me to show you some of the contacts code, or should I talk through it maybe? Because it's a bit.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so what we have is we have the concept of peers and contacts. So peers are sort of these global entries. They're not tied to any identity. And they represent other people's identities you've come in contact with. So for example, you'd get maybe a feed hash of another user's identity. And from that feed hash, you can create a peer identity. And using that feed hash, you could download maybe some profile data. So any public profile data that user wants to disclose in their feed, their public feed. And so, yeah, you have these peers, and then contacts become connections between an identity you have and that peer. Oops, a bit of echo.
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, yeah. And so, yeah, once you've established a connection with a contact, sort of the work Shane's been working on is you'd create a feed for a private feed between you and that contact. That would be your way of giving data to the contact, and the contact would also set up a feed for you to extract data relating to you from them. And that's the sort of initial sort of first contact setup we have. And so, yeah, just been basically building some data structures in the vault to accommodate for that. Yeah, that's pretty much it for contacts.
That's great. Thank you for that overview. And anybody who's doing work related to contacts, Shane's the guy to go to, or, sorry, Adam's the guy to go to for more details there. Where's the code right now? Is it merged or?
Yeah, it's merged. It's in there. It's in like the daemon package, and it's in the identities repo, the contact stuff.
Okay, cool. Okay, Kamal, you want to share?
Yeah.
And
so I'm going to share my screen and use your mic.
Okay, yeah, that's good. And we talked before about combining, but maybe not.
So it's still like a one combine, but like I'll go up to like first part and then post.
Okay, that's good.
So one I'm gonna show, it's more of the so at this point I don't have a lot of
Are you sharing?
Yeah, I'm sharing. There we go. So we don't have a lot of interfaces, and some of that will change. So I'll go through it. So that on that screen, for example, we'll only have password anymore. So when the user will arrive on the screen, first thing you will see this like password field. Then to set up the password vault, then continue, and then we'll have this avatar and name that will set up the identity. So we'll have two setups, so like vault and then identity, then we go to the home screen. The main goal of like kind of like those like interfaces for internal like design was to create the design system, the design field, for example, the illustration on the right. So I think, okay, we can actually use that in different manners, have like here like a little encrypted icon, or could have different things like kind of like start this setup. And also to have a design system in place for the dApps. So here, as like Diego showed you, like he already worked on the input field, so he's done like a good job of like implementing the design in Morpheus UI. When you click on password, then you get like the confirm password after, and continue. Then you arrive on the landing page, home page of the OS. At the top, people can continue the setup. So complete identity, they will have their like first identity, but they will be able to add more. So this, we've decided to put it at the end and ask people to set up the wallet first, then connect with others and the identity. Below the applications, all the idea of like the mainframe apps is to have black and a color. So all mainframes apps will have like will be similar to that, with like in black and color, because you'll see this black actually will be part of the trusted UI. So that way people can connect the dots and say, okay, that's part of the mainframe. Like simple navigation. So Blake did a good job changing that, and that's working pretty well. So worked on the same for the icons. So we worked on kind of like having like a design system in place to create icons. So later it'll be like easier. We have sizes and know how we do it. We have a little red dot when there is something to do in the app, so some sort of like a notification. So we have like identities, contact, and wallets, just because they can continue the setup. So we put like a little red dot. And so next step on that will be to create all the interfaces of identities, contacts, wallets, settings. So still like a bit of work, but the main kind of like design vision is in place. It'll be easier to do that. And same for kind of like interaction. Thought about like how like when you hover, little like shadow, and that's it. Yeah. For this kind of like that's the current state of the OS in terms of design.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, you want to stop sharing?
Yep.
Okay, Cameron hasn't done a ton on this yet because he's been focused on other things, but on the bundling install front, we have ordered some new hardware to be able to sign our builds and the Windows machine to actually be able to do some testing of UI and functionality in Windows environment, which, believe it or not, people use. So we ought to be a little bit informed on. Okay, moving on to the SDK Force team. We have several POCs underway, and that will lead very soon to new both low-level and higher level APIs implemented in the SDK. So we can just kind of run through those. Milos, are you prepared to share your POC?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'll stop sharing here.
Yeah, so just like a bit of background. So my task was to look into how we'll support encrypted uploads and downloads. And I first looked into libsodium and how we could use that, but we ended up using the Node.js built-in cryptography library. And I have a POC which, well, I'll just start it. So this is just a Docker node, which the swarm node in Docker, and this starts an election project, which when I choose a file, it's gonna upload to this swarm node, the local swarm node that I'm running. It's gonna first encrypt the file and then upload it, and then immediately after, we're gonna download the file, decrypt it, and then show it on screen. So let's see if that works. And upload. Oh, yeah. So it's a little cat. So that worked. It wouldn't be this fast in reality, but I just ran the demo just before the meeting, so I think it was like pre-cached. But you can see like in the logs that actually like we're decrypting the data and everything. So yeah, ideally this would we're gonna make it work in a way where you have one file read from the file system. You provide a file, and then we make a stream that goes through encryption step, and then we pipe it to Erebos, which makes the stream go to the swarm node. So we're not loading the whole file in memory, we're just streaming it, both with encryption and with the upload. And also we're not writing to the file system at all. So like we're just, when we read and then we upload directly to Swarm. And then on the download side, it's the same way. We're reading a stream and then decrypting and then downloading to the local file system. So yeah, this it's gonna be good.
Awesome. What is there any connection yet, or what keys are we using for encryption and decryption? Are these?
So I hard coded the key just for this demo,
Okay.
and but it's using the AES 256 cipher, and we can change the cipher. And I should note that this is using Erebos. Like I'm not uploading from the browser or something. We're actually leveraging Erebos underneath this Electron project, I guess.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. Why don't you stop sharing? And I can't remember what I put on. Let's see. Oh, Shane, do you want to share for first contact and feeds and polling and all that?
So I'm going to start. So the idea for this is we're going to make first contact between two different users who are operating on two different swarm nodes. So I'm going to just start those swarm nodes now. And I have these two browser windows, and each one will connect to a different swarm instance. So it's just a query parameter. This one's got 8501. This one's got 8502. But we can we'll name them differently because they're both named Alice right now. So this one Cameron. So when these load up, I'm just pre-generating a Ethereum public-private key pair for them, and then I'm also publishing to Swarm like their public contact data. So if we look at the source here, this is all the contact data is right now. It's like listing what your public key is, and then some profile data, which right now is just your name. Whereas when we're using it in Mainframe OS, there's going to be more data in there, like basically whatever we want to reveal publicly. So then we upload this contact data to Swarm, and then we get a Swarm hash. And then the idea is that this is either we share this directly or we share a feed so you can like update things. So it's like, okay, I want to update my public display name. Maybe you want to publish to another feed. But for this demo, I'm just using like a static Swarm hash. So the idea is that this is the hash that you'll share with other users to initiate contact. So what?
The contact data hash is the one you share? Yeah,
exactly. So in this case, Dwayne has shared his contact data hash with Cameron. So then he can look that up and see, okay, this refers to somebody called Dwayne, and their public key is 0x45, yada, yada. And that matches what we have here, which is nice.
Very cool.
And then he can be like, okay, yeah, this is correct. I'm going to make a contact request for Dwayne. So what this does is, this is going to try to bootstrap a private communication feed that Cameron can send private data to Dwayne that nobody else can really track. So he creates a random feed topic, and then he posts this feed topic inside a deterministic feed. So the idea is that Dwayne will know where to look for Cameron's. If Dwayne also adds Cameron, he'll know where to look for Cameron's post, his like more public post, which is like, we're going to do private communication over here. And then once he finds that, he can read it and see what's in there. So what's happening over here is Cameron's published to these two feeds, and then he's checking for Dwayne's deterministic feed to see if he's tried to make contact as well, but he's getting 404s, which means that it's not there. So when we take Cameron's contact data hash and then he shares that with Dwayne, so then he'll go through the same process. He'll create a private feed for his communications with Cameron, and then he'll publish a reference to that feed into like a deterministic location. That's the place where Cameron's looking now. And then when he finds it, they can read each other's private feed, or like their kind of handshaked private feed. So yeah, he finds Cameron with the public key, and then sends the contact request. So yeah, the first thing he's doing is publishing to the private feed, and then publishes to the deterministic feed that Cameron's already checking. which is slow. Yeah, I mean, this is like the algorithm for finding the current place you should publish the feed is not quick, but I mean, Paul were talking about it earlier, and there's ways to like optimize it, so it should be okay.
Sure.
I don't know why it's taking this long though. It's like sounds are taking off.
I remember those patterns of lines.
It's okay if you want to call it. This is amazing.
Oh, we're so close.
We're so close.
I'm willing to wait.
We can wait.
Yeah, we'll start again.
You can add that you were like you're going to add a PSS layer on top so that in the event that both are online at the same time, we can go through this a little bit faster, right?
Yeah, although I found that even with feeds, it's pretty quick.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, like the data is available within like 5 to 10 seconds. So like feeds propagate really quickly.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
But like polling them every 5 seconds is a bad idea. This swarm node is not doing so well.
Oh man, darn swarm nodes.
While you troubleshoot that, Adam mentioned peers earlier. I see peers here.
Oh yeah.
Would you mind clarifying for me a little bit? Because peers is some step prior to being a contact where both people have entered keys, right? For swarm matches. What makes a person a peer? What makes another user a peer?
A peer is just like another user's identity. So it's basically their public key and their public swarm hash. So that's unique. There's only one of those in the system, but a contact could be, so I could be a user of the system and have my peers. And as a user, I make a contact with that peer where we both establish a connection, like Shane was just demonstrating. And then once you both had this sort of handshake, you become a contact and you both have access to this private data. But then I could have another identity I'm using the system and also make a contact out of an individual, a single peer. And then I've got like a contact with that peer, but I might have different data or access to different data than my other identity does. Does that make sense? So you have individual peers, but then multiple users have like their contact lists, but depending on what data identity the other user is giving you access to, the contacts could contain different data. Probably sounds a bit confusing, but
I think basically they're a peer until the handshake, and then they're a contact, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, look at this. We did it.
Opa!
Let's first off,
Much well.
That's
I think
awesome.
I think the swarm node was like logging too much to the terminal, and like the like IO was getting backed up.
Oh yeah.
The swarm.
Very, very cool. Good job, Shane.
Anyway, it's surprisingly quick because I mean I heard some like other people were using feeds saying that it's taking like minutes for this stuff to propagate, but it seemed like super quick.
Okay, well that's good, and good learnings and precedents. So if anybody is using feeds in other ways and it's not quick, then Shane's your guy to help figure out why.
Just for context, though, this is the local.
Oh, this is 2 local swarm nodes, right?
Yeah, but they're both connected to this. They're not connected to each other necessarily.
Okay.
But, like, they're pushing. They shouldn't be making chunk requests from each other. They're connected just into the swarm network.
Cool.
Yeah.
Contacts now, or would there be another?
They're now contacts. They can now communicate on this private channel.
So Let's Connect would be like we have.
Yeah, yeah. I think the Let's Connect is probably the part of the initial contact. Like you get to put a message in when you make your initial.
No, this is just like the idea is that like this is some information that's been shared in the private channel. Like I just dumped some data in there just to be like, just to prove that they know about each other, but it doesn't mean anything. Like ideally, this is the communication channel that is now used to bootstrap like other different communication types when you try to connect in a different app. So if you do like Onyx and you want to connect, you'll use this secret communication channel to kind of set that up.
And just so the product guys don't freak out about all of this, this is not at all what it's going to look like.
Oh, no,
once,
yeah.
Actually.
Next time he's gonna use Morpheus UI.
Yeah. But this is huge. This is something that we've been waiting for, and has been holding up, or has been kind of a blocker for a lot of other things, and there've been a lot of unknowns in this space. So this is a big deal to get this. Yeah. So awesome. Okay. Then with some overlap but different kind of focus, let's have Cameron share his progress on PSS with kind of feeds.
Yeah, give me just a second to figure out how to share this. All my icons are gone. Here we go. Yeah, let's just share that desktop. Okay, so yeah, I've just been working on trying to combine feeds and PSS for comms so that you get you know, persistent communications, but also quick. Oh yeah, I was going to show you this real quick too, just because I don't think anyone but the guys from Transmute have seen it yet. This is what I'm using for my swarm nodes, which is Swarmer. You can install this if you have, right now you have to have your Go environment set up, but just go get, and you'll have Swarmer. So at that point,
and that means you have a local swarm node running, yeah?
Yeah, so for example, in my little POC, so now if I have Swarmer, all I have to do is have a swarmer.yaml file in my project. In this case, I'm telling it to check out from the Go Ethereum repo. I'm pinning it to a specific commit hash that I know works for what I'm doing. Telling it to spin up 2 swarm nodes. I'm using Infura for ENS, which I don't actually need at this point. Adding some files, running geth, and just specifying my logs. Not all of this is required. Really, all you need is the repo, and if you want to pin it to a specific commit hash. If you don't, it's just going to go to the head of master. You don't even have to tell it how many nodes to run. If you don't specify that, it'll just run 1 swarm node for you. But if you put in more than 1 node, they will spin up and they'll automatically peer and do all of the magic things that are generally a little bit more difficult for a developer trying to get something to work. So once...
That's very cool. And you said the guys from Transmute are using this?
Yeah, I've been working with them and pushing some various fixes out for the stuff they're trying to do and whatnot. So
is this public to NPM, or is just the...
It's public in GitHub, yeah.
Public in GitHub. So yeah, this is something probably a good content for a blog post.
Yeah, probably should do that. So if we look, not that. Okay, so here, well, this isn't the one, but you can see if you run Swarmer, if you have that swarmer.yaml just in the project where you're running it, then you don't even need to tell it where the config is. This is just a different one. And what it does, this one is 2 nodes, and what it'll do is it'll tell you where all your ports are. It'll give you any information you might need to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. And so I think I actually have some running already. Yeah, so I've got some nodes running. So if we go back to my little POC, which is at this point, really all it's doing is it's taking our simple PSS example. So this isn't really interactive yet, but what it does is it's using these swarm nodes and sending a message from Alice to Bob or Bob to Alice. I don't remember which, but at the same time, it's also publishing the history of these communications that are going on in JSON in a swarm feed, so that, you know, the next step is to figure out on first contact, take that topic, look up the feed, and you can actually load the conversation history so that nothing ever gets lost. Or if someone's offline and they come back online, you can load that history and bring them up to date on what's happened, either in one-to-one, you know, private communications, or in group communications, or whatever. No one gets left out. That kind of persists. And what we can do now, if we run, and I hope this works because I broke a lot of stuff last night. So if we run this little test, yep, there we go. So that's, it's not that flashy yet, but that went over PSS, and it is in a feed, persisted, so that if we turn this off and got it to read again, it would bring us up to date on the next one. So I'm going to make that interactive, so you actually can type messages between two users. And then also, when you first connect, load that swarm feed.
This is awesome. This persistent mailboxing we haven't had forever. So yeah, yay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good job. Okay. Yeah. And that's how it worked.
Yeah.
In demo form.
Yes. Unlike Shane, though, the product guys should know this is the end product. This is what we're Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Stop sharing. I'll go back to my list here. Okay, we're going to get into the dApps now, I think. Oh, let's go back. Okay, we'll start with Noted. We've got Megan, Dwayne, Jordan have worked a lot on Noted, and so I will let them talk about it. I know we have both a UI kind of component and SDK launcher integration component. So we'll let kind of Megan and Dwayne talk about those, and then Clement or Jordan, I don't know how you guys want to do that, but can share the UI designs. So what do you want? Let's see, Megan, you want to start with your?
Sure. I'll start just by sharing. Okay, so this is kind of just going through an initial state. This will change a bit with most recent designs, but most important updates, I guess, are we have rich text formatting. Just there's some content in there. We also have folders now, which we can rename, move things around, and the rich text is persisting. We've also got just inline renaming and search, and I think that's pretty much everything. Tried to keep it quick.
Yeah. It's awesome, and it's powered right now by local storage caching.
Right, you can see the data in local storage down here.
So this is based on the wireframes that Blake came up with a bit ago, and not persisted yet beyond local storage, right? Yeah. Okay, Dwayne, do you want to talk a little bit about the integration?
Yeah. Not sure if it's demo worthy. Basically, what you saw, but in Mainframe.
Well, it is demo worthy. Do you have? Is it runnable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen on our screen. Okay. Here it is inside Mainframe.
Ta-da!
So the only thing that we're doing here is calling the Mainframe API version call, just to show we have connection all the way through. So this isn't even the most recent change that Megan's done, so ignore the sidebar.
Yeah. So I mean, Dwayne might want to downplay this isn't demo worthy, but this is a big deal. It took a lot of finagling to get things configured right, and to make the connections needed to make that one SDK call. That's awesome. Cool.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, then let's talk about the UI designs.
So we've seen this already. So when you click on the DApp, it would open a new window, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here's the first thing you would see. There would be just a welcome note, and then just going through some of the processes, like creating a new note. Here's what you would see when you create a new note, and then you could type something in it. And how we have it set up right now is to have the folders kind of slide, and then you can add folders, type a new folder name, and then if you create a new folder, there will automatically become a new folder called All Notes, and then you can drag and drop into different folders, and then when you look at the All Notes, it'll show which folder. So pretty similar to what Megan showed, just a few different changes.
Well, it looks pretty.
And also the top, we can add, that's the trusted UI in black. We talked about, so that is anything that would cover that area is part of the trusted UI. So if we have a pop-up, this cover part of that to make sure that it is not from the app, but from the OS.
So anything the DApp developer does should never be able to cover that black bar. Okay. And what's in the corner on the right, that's
when you get a notification that you're identity. Okay. So if you click on that, maybe you have a screen with that pop-up. You get a pop-up, and that pop-up covers the top, and you have the bottom. So, and in that pop-up, we can show anything. If it's when we need a specific permission, that would go there.
Cool. Awesome. That looks great. Anything else on Noted you guys want to mention? Lots. We're not really talking on any of these things about next steps. Obviously, this is a progress report, meaning there's more to come on all of these. So, okay, then let's go back to this and talk about Paymo. So Doug's been working on, he's been working on the Paymo DApp from a little bit different angle, and I like both the way, so Dwayne and Megan kind of started a little bit more from inside of, that's not really true, is it? You guys kind of started as a web-based DApp and are now and then integrate. So I guess maybe that isn't totally a different approach, but regardless, we have two DApps having been developed kind of independently outside of the launcher, and then working on kind of integrating inside. So Doug, you want to talk about Paymo?
Sure. So let me tell you guys that I am so excited, so happy. I'm really so thrilled to be right now here in this amazing, glorious, super and exciting moment of my life with all of you guys. The world is not anymore the way it used to be. No. So
come on, you should have memorized that.
Getting the English backwards is not easy. So Paymo Connect has really changed my life, and my wife didn't even believe it at first, but when I took my Bitcoin to the bank and pulled out the money and put $10,000 on the kitchen table, she couldn't even deny it. So what you just saw was me approving through Firebase the Paymo Connect app, and there we go. We got the updated. And so we're going to go ahead and do a transaction. And so I'll choose this other account over here. And some of the features are that my date and my ETH amount don't wrap to a second line.
Nice.
I have this wonderful little pop-up here. And then when you click on it, it will copy that address to your clipboard.
Cool.
And so let's go ahead and start sending the money. And I'll paste the address in, and for changing my life. Thanks.
Thousands of tests.
Yeah, didn't change it that much.
Uh-oh, I don't have enough on this account. I need to switch accounts. That was, there we go. Jacked.
So the way you're using MetaMask right now and switching between accounts, like wallets, that's just that would be a placeholder for wallets in the future.
So I'll need you to repeat the question.
I got approving nods.
Yeah, so this is a web app that uses MetaMask currently, and yeah, eventually once it's integrated into Mainframe OS, it will use our wallet backend instead.
So there it is. It's now confirmed, and it showed up in real time. And so this was the transaction, and as you would expect, it showed up the second from the bottom. So.
That's awesome. Look at that. Actually.
And so these little icons over here are deterministically generated based off the actual address. So you get this visual representation of the address. And I just ripped it off from the library that was being used within MetaMask itself.
Cool.
So that you have some consistency there.
Awesome.
So yeah, that is the life-changing work I've been.
Do you want to also demo the impressive Mainframe OS integration?
Oh yeah. So I do have it running in Mainframe OS, and as you can see, I've got a pop-up telling me that it failed to load my Web3 accounts because it is expecting that on the window object there is a Web3 injected, and so those are like next steps is to hash those details out.
Yeah, so this is cool because it took some work to get an existing web, web app.
Yeah, I was a beneficiary of a lot of Dwayne's finagling and figuring out how to transpile the React app.
And then also cool to prove kind of the permissions model that he was prevented from being able to do anything that we haven't previously either enabled or given permission for. So you can't just install any web app and let it do its thing. So very cool. Okay, anything else you want to talk about with Paymo?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Okay, when you stop sharing. And just the very last thing that I kind of wanted to mention, haven't done a ton on it, but the DApp work that's been done has started us down the path of Dev Portal and kind of defining and honing the DApp experience and processes. So in the process, Dwayne's been doing lots of good documentation of tweaks that have to be made to the output of Create React App and and then what it takes to implement or to integrate with Mainframe OS, and we'll add to that as Megan's gonna be working on integrating Morpheus UI, and so that'll be that's kind of underway, and then we've kind of started realizing problems with the there's some deficiencies in DApp debugging tools and stuff, and so we're kind of looking at and figuring out either workarounds or kind of best practices or recommended practices for that. So that's great. And then I know that Neil has also kind of started down the path of Dev Portal definition and conceptualization and everything. So yeah, it needs to not be an afterthought. So, you know, a little long, but thank you, everybody. And I hope that you're all feeling excited about, you know, progress being made and hopeful about our ability to kick off the blockchain pretty soon.